Welcome back, everybody. So I came in today on my day off to make this video for you because I figured it'd be better to make this video without all the hustle and bustle of the shop day going on, the compressor kicking on, people asking me questions, the phone ringing, all that kind of stuff. So it's nice and quiet today. I figured I'd make this video. Now behind me I have a F90 M5, and it has, actually I don't even know if it has the issue, but we're doing some preventative maintenance basically on this car. So a customer brought this car to me and they brought up an issue that they found on the forums and online, and that is that the coolant reservoir that sits over the top of the engine is starting to crack on these cars, very low mileage. You know, anywhere down 18 to 30,000 miles, almost guaranteed it's going to crack. And the reason it cracks is just because of the excessive heat under the hood on these things. It basically sits right on top of the engine, and BMW is having this issue with a lot of their cars, like the newer B motors. They're having an issue with the oil filter housings cracking. There's a coolant pipe underneath the intake that's made of plastic that's cracking, and the reason is BMW is really pushing the limits with getting their cars as hot as they possibly can without causing engine damage, and that is all for emissions reasons. So these new cars, you know, they're running really hot, and it's really testing the engineering limits of the plastics that they're using in these cars, and we are having some failures. So again, this is something that was brought up to me by the customer. They said they started to smell some coolant. They did some research online and found out that this is an issue, and they just wanted to take care of it ahead of time because it does sit over the top of the engine. Let me see if I can show you real quick. So it basically sits right here over the top of bank 2 cylinder head, and kind of over the top of the V of the engine as well. And when it leaks down into the V of the engine and into the channel where the injectors and the ignition coils sit, and can cause a bunch of corrosion issues. So he wanted to take care of it ahead of time because he is already smelling coolant, and it may be cracked. When we get it out, we'll take a look. But what he found online, and I did some research and found out this is the only one, is that there is an updated coolant tank made by Autowerks, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So this is the coolant tank that Autowerks made. It's a thing of beauty, very well made. It's billet aluminum. You can still see like the machining marks in the aluminum. It's a very amazing part, but it's very expensive. This coolant reservoir is over $1,200, so not cheap, but it is a lot cheaper than, you know, corroding your injectors or spark plugs into your cylinder head. So this is a known problem. He wants to take care of it now. This one may be cracked. He's smelling coolant. I did smell coolant when he came in the first day because he had been driving the car for quite a while when he showed up. But I don't know for sure if this one is cracked. But today what I want to do is just roll the camera while I replace it. I can explain to you how I took it off, you know, when I'm done. But very simple. It looks simple. Never done one on this car. I've done thousands of them on other BMWs, but basically there's a quick disconnect here, quick disconnect here, and there's one on the bottom. 2 screws. That should be it. The old one may have, sometimes they have like a rubber grommet on the bottom that kind of pops onto like a nipple that sticks up in the engine bay, but we'll find out when we get in there. It looks very simple. I'm gonna first evacuate the coolant system with our evacuation machine, and then I will go ahead and just start removing the tank, getting that one installed. And when we get it out, we'll take a look at the old one and see, you know, if it is in fact cracked. And we'll kind of just look at it and where it sits, and I'll kind of show you the engine and what's underneath it. So let me get the camera set up and we'll dive right into this thing. so this was kind of a pain in the butt to get out. It's the level probe that goes down into the coolant tank. It actually sits in a connector, which used to be right there, but the instructions on their site just say you just have to pull it out, but it doesn't come right out. They say sometimes, and it says sometimes you have to break the connector away like that. And then they also tell you that you have to reuse the 2 little O-rings that are down inside there, and that they don't offer them, and that if you damage them, that you have to source them on your own locally. So I gotta try to get those little tiny O-rings out of there without scratching them or anything with a pick. So that's gonna be kind of tough, but I gotta get those out, get them onto the new probe, and put that probe into the new coolant reservoir tank, and then we will put it back in the car. So I'm gonna do that right now, get those little tiny O-rings out, put them on the probe, slide it into the tank, and then I'll set up the camera again on the car and watch you, so you can watch me put it into the car. It's a tiny little one. All right, so if you see this sensor, it's got 2 little grooves cut into one side. Those faced up. Like this sits on an angle in the tank, kind of like this, and those faced up. It probably doesn't matter if you flip it either way, but I always like to put things back the way they were if you're doing something custom like this. The new reservoir does not have the grooves in that connector. It probably would have been too hard to machine them in there. So I'm just gonna take this, make sure those are pointed up, and just slide it in here. And then I'll have to push those O-rings down in there with a screwdriver or something plastic so I don't break that. I've already greased them up with a little bit of grease so that they slide in nicely, but that's pretty much that, and we're ready to go back in the car with it. Okay, so they're in there. I confirmed. I was able to slide the probes back out a little bit and look down in with a flashlight to make sure that the O-rings were seated in the little machined holes for themselves. Look, everything looks good. It's ready to go back in the car. Okay, so one thing I've noticed trying to put this on is it's very snug against this heat shield that goes over the turbos. And it doesn't rest on the 2 rubber grommets that the 2 little, let me show you, hold on. So the older one had these 2 nipples that went down into 2 rubber grommets, and they sat on the rubber grommets. This does not sit on that rubber grommet. It sits really tightly against this heat shield. I'm curious if that will cause some rattles. But the only way to tell is for us to put it in, bolt it down, and then we'll have to drive it and see what happens. But I could see that potentially being an issue with this thing. And I'm wondering if there's some type of, if I could find some type of like rubber plug or something that would come up higher and actually rest on the bottom of this new reservoir, just like these older ones did. But I guess for now I'm gonna have to just bolt this one in, and we'll get it all bled and filled up, and then we'll go drive it and see what happens, I guess. So let me get it put on here, and we'll see what happens. Another thing that's missing from this is there's nothing to clip the fuel lines down into. So not sure if that's going to be a problem, but for now, I mean, there's nothing to really do about it. It's just going to have to be what it is. I'm a big fan of everything being secured, so I'm gonna use zip ties, and I'm gonna zip tie this loose coolant level sensor wire that used to click into the side of the tank. I'm gonna zip tie it down to this lower harness right here.